Most people are completely fine just folding their hands, looking up at the sky and saying, I believe. What if that's just taking the easy way out? What if there was an ancient path that demanded you stop relying on blind faith and actually open your eyes to see the truth for yourself? Today we're talking about the Gnostics. The word Gnostikos literally translates to knower. Not a believer, a knower. Back in the first centuries, these guys mostly just called themselves Christians, though you also had schools like Hermeticism, people who actually studied the mechanics of the universe like early alchemists. But the bottom line, they all wanted a direct, first-hand experience with what you might call the divine, or the truth. So how did they get this knowledge? It wasn't handed to them on a silver platter. Carl Jung, a guy who actually bothered to understand the human mind, studied their texts. He realized they weren't just making up fairy tales. To Jung, Gnosis was real, hard-earned knowledge, pulled directly from the deepest, most foundational parts of the human psyche. It's like understanding the very arrays that make up human consciousness. Gershom saw it too. He noticed the 2nd and 3rd century Gnostics were obsessed with the idea of heavenly flights. They weren't physically flying. They were visualizing their consciousness pushing past the limits of the physical world, bypassing the cosmic spheres to return to their true source. To them, pulling yourself out of the dark and back into the light wasn't just a metaphor. It was the only way to redeem your soul. And here's where they completely split from mainstream religion. You know how most religions work? They demand blind faith. William James nailed it when he said that for most people, faith is just having faith in someone else's faith. It's secondhand information. It's like trying to perform an understanding based on a rumor you heard from a guy who heard it from his cousin. It doesn't work that way. The Gnostics rejected this secondhand garbage. They wanted to rip away the unconsciousness and see the structure of reality. They wanted to see it for themselves. Did they have faith? Sure. But they called it pistis. It wasn't blind obedience, it was an absolute, unwavering loyalty to their own first-hand experience of the truth. Think of their figure, Sophia. She went through hell, but she never stopped trusting her own vision of the light. So what does it actually feel like when you see it? Harold Bloom breaks it down. It could happen when you're alone, studying or just looking inward. But when it hits, it alters you. Your consciousness gets pulled completely beyond the limitations of this flawed physical world. It reveals two massive truths. First, that whatever created this messed up, broken world we live in isn't the ultimate truth. The real source is something entirely beyond it. And second, you realize that your own core, your true nature, was never part of this flawed system to begin with. You've got a piece of that original truth inside you, a divine spark. Even the early Christians weren't totally clueless about this. Paul and John used the word Gnosis to describe actually knowing God. Paul talked about the light of knowledge shining directly in our hearts. It wasn't about reading it in a book. It was about experiencing it directly. Dan Merker points out that this Gnosis comes from two states: visionary experiences, where you actually see the underlying reality of things, and unitive experiences, where you merge with it. These Gnostics walked a razor-thin line. They didn't think they were physically traveling to other planets, but they weren't just speaking in poetic metaphors either. They believed that by looking past the physical world, the spark inside them was directly connecting with the ultimate truth of the universe. That's the core of it all, rejecting the rumors, refusing blind faith, and demanding first-hand undeniable knowledge. That is the essence of Gnosis. It's a realization the truth you've been desperately searching for isn't hiding behind some gate in the sky. It's been buried right inside you all along. So what do you think? Is blindly believing enough for you? Or do you demand to know the truth for yourself? Let me know down in the comments. If you're tired of secondhand knowledge and want to keep digging into the real mechanics of the world, hit like and subscribe. Until next time, don't stop seeking the truth.